A billionaire gave food to 3 beggar triplets in a park on an extremely cold day. And the next morning, police cars knocked on the door of his mansion. Snowflakes danced in the air like tiny frozen stars, indifferent to the drama unfolding in Central Park that winter morning. The biting wind whipped the barren trees, creating a somber symphony echoing through the deserted paths. Jack Thompson adjusted his cashmere scarf with gloved fingers, Italian leather gloves, no less, his solitary footsteps breaking the sepulchral silence of the frozen landscape. The city was still asleep, wrapped in its white blanket, but Jack had been awake for hours. Sleep had avoided him like an enemy for the past 5 years, ever since that fateful night that turned his life into an emotional wasteland. His early morning walks had become a ritual of penance, a way to atone for guilt that not even all his money could erase. Something broke the monotony of the endless white, a sound fragile, almost imperceptible, like the flutter of a wounded sparrow's wings. Jack stopped, his Italian boots sinking into the fresh snow. Years of tough negotiations had sharpened his instincts. There, under a gazebo half ruined by time and neglect, 3 tiny figures huddled together like frightened animals seeking warmth. Their thin coats, stained and torn, were an affront to the merciless January weather. He checked his Patek Philippe. 7:43 a.m. Too early for children to be alone in the park. Too late to pretend he hadn't seen them. The girls were identical, like reflections in a mirror shattered into 3 pieces. The same angelic face framed by dirty, tangled blonde curls. The same blue eyes that carried a burden far too heavy for their age. The one in the middle clutched a folded piece of cardboard against her chest, as though it were a national treasure. The other 2 trembled violently, their purple lips murmuring words lost in the icy wind. "Are you all right?" Jack heard his own voice, softer than he'd intended. Years of commanding boardrooms with unquestionable authority felt distant now. 3 pairs of eyes fixed on him with a mixture of fear and hope that made his heart, that organ he believed had turned to stone, give a painful leap. The girl on the right, he would later learn her name was Sophia, stepped forward, her small body shaking but her posture defiant. "We're waiting for our mum," she whispered, her voice as fragile as the thin ice covering the nearby pond. "She told us not to talk to strangers." Jack felt something strange in his chest, a sensation he hadn't experienced since that rainy night when he received the call that changed his life forever. The last people to stir any emotion in him had died 5 years ago. In an accident he'd spent a fortune trying to forget, drowning his sorrows in expensive bottles and exclusive therapy. A stomach growl cut the silence like a knife. The girl in the middle, Emma, wrapped her arms around her belly, a flush of shame coloring her pale cheeks. Her sister on the left, Olivia, pulled the piece of cardboard from Emma's hands and held it out with trembling fingers. It was an old calendar, strategically folded to show a photo of a hearty breakfast, golden eggs, crispy bacon, a stack of pancakes drenched in syrup. "We're just looking," Olivia explained, her voice shaking as much as her body, "so we can remember what it's like." The picture feels warm. In the business world, Jack Thompson was known for his calculated coldness. A modern Wolf of Wall Street, as Forbes had dubbed him on its cover. Tough decisions were his specialty. Hostile takeovers, massive layoffs, closing factories, all without blinking or losing a minute's sleep. His financial empire had been built on the wreckage of family businesses that failed to adapt to the new times. But there, in that moment frozen in time, something inside him snapped. Maybe it was the way Emma hugged herself, trying to control her trembling, or how Sophia kept her chin raised, a tiny warrior protecting her sisters, or even the dreamy look in Olivia's eyes as she gazed at that faded photo of food. "Come with me," he said, extending his gloved hand. "I know a place nearby that serves the best pancakes in the city, with real maple syrup, imported from Canada." The girls looked at one another, years of warnings about strangers battling against the ravaging hunger they couldn't hide. Jack could see the silent debate among them, that mysterious communication only triplets seemed to possess. "But," Sophia began, her resistance melting like snow in the morning sun. "Our mum—" "We can wait for your mum there," Jack added gently, in the warmth. with hot chocolate. Emma was the one who decided for them all. Her small, trembling body moved toward Jack, dragging her sisters by the invisible force that always unites triplets. She said nothing, but her eyes spoke volumes: hunger, fear, hope, all mixed into a deep blue that reminded Jack of the ocean during a storm. As they walked through the snow toward the cozy Belle Vista Cafe, Jack watched the girls from the corner of his eye. Their steps were uncertain, as if they'd been walking for a very long time. Their clothes, besides being inadequate for the cold, looked as though they had been worn for days. And there was something in their eyes, an ancient wisdom, a caution 4-year-olds shouldn't possess. The cafe's bell chimed as they entered, warm air scented with freshly brewed coffee and pancake batter, enveloping them like a hug. The morning waitress, an older woman with graying hair whom Jack knew only as Rose, raised her eyebrows at the usually solitary customer, accompanied by 3 little girls who looked like they'd stepped out of a dark fairy tale. "Your usual table, Mr. Thompson?" she asked, already grabbing 4 menus. Jack nodded, guiding the girls to his favorite table near a crackling stone fireplace. The triplets squeezed onto one bench, still pressed close to each other, their wide eyes scanning the cozy environment as if trying to memorize every detail. "You can order whatever you want," Jack said, opening his own menu more out of habit than need. He knew every item by heart. "Anything at all?" Olivia asked, her voice still small but already carrying a note of hope. "Anything," he confirmed, watching as they devoured the colorful menu photos with their eyes. While the girls whispered among themselves, deciding what to order, Jack couldn't have imagined that his decision to feed 3 hungry children would set off a series of events that would forever change not only his life, but also reveal a far bigger mystery than a few abandoned kids in a park. The next day, when police sirens shattered the silence of his elegant street, he would understand that some decisions, no matter how simple they may seem, have the power to unearth secrets long buried, secrets some people would kill to keep hidden. But at that moment, all that mattered were 3 identical smiles blooming like rare flowers before the biggest plate of pancakes Belle Vista Cafe had ever served. And for the first time in 5 years, Jack Thompson felt something other than the usual emptiness in his chest. It was hope, as fragile as a snowflake, yet equally capable of transforming an entire landscape. Belle Vista Cafe had never witnessed a scene quite like that. Jack Thompson, the feared business tycoon, was cutting pancakes into small pieces while 3 identical girls watched his every move with wide eyes. "Slow down," he gently warned, when Emma tried to cram a piece too big into her mouth. "The food's not going to run away." Sophia, the protector, kept casting suspicious glances out the cafe window. "What if our mom goes back to the park and doesn't find us?" Jack felt a pang in his chest. After 2 hours of fragmented conversation between eager bites, it was clear that waiting for Mom was a story the girls themselves barely believed. "How long has it been?" he asked, keeping his tone casual while signaling Rose for more hot chocolate. 3, no, 4 days, Olivia replied, licking syrup off her fingers. "But she'll come back. She always comes back." The word "always" made Jack frown. How many times had this happened? "It's starting to snow harder," he noted, a decision forming in his mind. "You need proper clothes." The triplets exchanged looks, that silent communication once again in action. Sophia was the one who spoke their collective thought. "We don't have money." "I do," Jack replied simply, already typing on his phone. A quick message to his assistant. "I need children's clothes. Size 4, everything. Urgent." The reply came in seconds. "Stores closed. Blizzard approaching." Jack cursed under his breath. He checked the time, 10:47 a.m. The nearest mall wouldn't open until noon. The temperature kept dropping. "Here's what we'll do." He leaned over the table, slipping into the negotiation mode that had sealed hundreds of multi-million-dollar deals. "I have a big house, with heating and empty rooms. We can wait for your mom there, where it's warm and safe." "Big like a castle?" Olivia asked, her eyes gleaming. "Almost," Jack smiled, realizing it was the first genuine smile he'd had in years. "And I have a cook who makes cookies better than these at the cafe." "Sophia," Emma nudged her sister. "Shh. It's really cold." The trio's unofficial leader bit her lip, weighing the options. Jack could see the conflict on her young face, responsibility far too heavy for such small shoulders. "Do you promise we can leave whenever we want?" she finally asked. Jack nodded solemnly. "I promise." The drive to his Upper East Side mansion was silent. In the Mercedes back seat, the three girls admired the snow-covered city, their little faces pressed against the tinted glass. The driver, Hanson, kept a curious eye on the rearview mirror, clearly intrigued by the abrupt change in his usually solitary boss's routine. The Thompson mansion emerged from the fog like a ghost ship, its Victorian lines towering against the grey sky. Jack heard muffled exclamations from the girls when the wrought-iron gate swung open automatically. "It really is a castle," Olivia whispered, amazed. The housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, waited at the door, her usually impassive face betraying surprise at the sight of three tiny figures stepping out of the car. "Mr. Thompson, prepare 3 bedrooms," he instructed, then reconsidered upon seeing how the girls stayed glued to each other. "No, 1 big bedroom with 3 beds. And we need clean clothes, hot baths." "Toys," Emma blurted, then covered her mouth as if she'd said something forbidden. Jack smiled again. Twice in one day, a record. Yes, toys too. The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. Mrs. Chen, recovered from her initial shock, coordinated an impromptu team of staff. Towels were warmed, old clothes from the cook's niece were repurposed, and an antique bathtub was turned into a bubble spa that drew delighted giggles from the triplets. Jack watched everything from his library, making calls, shifting resources, preparing for a situation he'd never imagined facing. Part of his mind, the cold-factored, calculating part that had built his empire, screamed that this was madness. 3 unknown children, in his house, with all the potential for legal troubles and scandals. But then he heard a laugh, pure, crystalline, sincere, echoing through corridors once filled with silence, and that calculating voice went quiet. "Mr. Thompson..." Mrs. Chen appeared at the door, her face softer than usual. "They're asking for you for dinner." He hesitated, looking at the contracts on his desk, at the open laptop with a complex spreadsheet. "And sir," she added, a subtle smile on her lips, "they're adorable, even though they need just about everything." Jack stood, straightening his tie by habit. Somewhere in his mind, he heard his late wife's voice. "Sometimes, my love, the universe puts people in our path for a reason." "I'm on my way," he answered, both to Mrs. Chen and to the ghost in his memory. As he walked toward the dining room, where 3 pairs of blue eyes awaited him eagerly, Jack Thompson knew his life had changed forever. What he didn't know was that somewhere in the city, a phone was ringing, and a woman named Rachel Miller was receiving news that would make her desperately search for her daughters. And in another, darker place, someone was watching a monitor displaying footage from the Belle Vista Cafe, focusing on Jack Thompson's face with the triplets. The blizzard outside intensified, as if trying to warn of a far greater storm looming on the horizon. Steam rose in lazy spirals from the hot bath as Mrs. Chen gently untangled the triplets' hair. The main bathroom, with its Victorian tub and golden faucets, had become a sanctuary of scented bubbles and tentative laughter. "It's been a long time," Emma murmured, playing with a rubber duck she'd found at the back of a cabinet. "Since our last hot bath." Jack, standing discreetly by the door, felt a tightness in his chest. He watched how Mrs. Chen, normally so formal and contained, hummed softly as she washed 3 blonde heads with maternal delicacy. "Mum said hot water is expensive," Sophia explained, her eyes closed as the housekeeper rinsed her hair. "That's why we had bucket baths. And in the summer," Olivia added, "we had Mrs. Peterson's garden hose." The 3 began to laugh at a shared memory, but there was a note of sadness in their laughter that didn't fit their age. "All done," Mrs. Chen announced, wrapping each girl in warm, fluffy towels. "Now you're real princesses." Jack cleared his throat, finally entering the bathroom. "I found something you might like." He carried 3 sets of pajamas, pink, lavender, and light blue, with little crowns embroidered on the pockets. A last-minute purchase his assistant had managed at a store still open despite the blizzard. "Can we choose?" Olivia asked, wide-eyed. Of course, Jack replied, placing the clothes on a velvet bench. Each of you can pick your favorite color. It was like watching a choreographed dance. The girls exchanged glances, made nearly imperceptible eyebrow signals, and in seconds each had chosen pajamas. Emma took the pink, Olivia the lavender, and Sophia, predictable in her protective nature, chose the blue. Because it matches our eyes, she explained. While Mrs. Chen helped the girls get dressed, Jack headed downstairs to check on dinner preparations. The kitchen bustled with activity. His chef, Marie, had abandoned the planned menu in favor of more child-friendly dishes. Roast chicken with mashed potatoes, she said, pointing to various pots, and I made chocolate chip cookies for dessert. Children need cookies. Back upstairs, Jack found 3 little princesses sitting on the king-size bed in the guest room, their clean faces rosy from the hot bath. Mrs. Chen had braided their hair identically, emphasizing their striking resemblance. Are you hungry? He asked, settling into a nearby armchair. 3 heads nodded vigorously. But first, Sophia began, her tone too serious for someone so small. We need to tell you something. Emma and Olivia clasped each other's hands as if drawing strength. Our mom, Sophia continued. She's not coming back this time. The silence that followed was heavy as lead. How do you know? Jack asked softly. Because she cried before she left, Emma replied, her voice trembling. She never cries when she leaves. And she left this, Olivia added, pulling a folded paper from the pocket of her new pajamas. It was a note, written in a shaky hand. Forgive me. I tried. I love you. Jack felt a surge of anger, not at the girl's mother, but at the system, the circumstances, the cruel fate that forced a mother to abandon her daughters. She said sometimes, Emma went on, silent tears rolling down her cheeks. Bad people were looking for her, and we had to stay hidden. In the park, Jack couldn't help asking. No, Sophia shook her head. First it was at a shelter, but they asked too many questions there. Then at Mrs. Peterson's house, but she got sick and went to the hospital. So the park, Olivia concluded. Jack stood and walked to the window. Snow continued to fall, turning his garden into a white desert. His analytical mind catalogued each piece of information, forming a dark puzzle. You're safe here, he finally said, turning to face them. No one will hurt you. Promise, 3 voices asked in unison. I promise. Dinner was a quiet affair, but not uncomfortable. Jack watched the girls eat with surprising manners for their age, thanking him for each dish with shy smiles. Later, after cookies and bedtime stories, Jack discovered he had a knack for making up tales about 3 princess triplets embarking on magical adventures. He remained in the armchair of the room, watching 3 little faces drift to sleep. His phone vibrated with unread messages from his legal team, alerts about important meetings, urgent emails. The real world intruding on his newly formed bubble. Mrs. Chen appeared silently at his side. They're asleep. Yes, Jack replied quietly. But for how long? Until someone looks for them? Until their mother returns? Or until these bad people find them? The housekeeper brushed a stray lock of Emma's hair aside. Then we prepare to fight. You have resources, influence, and a huge void in this house since Sarah and little Laura. He stopped, the pain still raw after 5 years. Perhaps, Mrs. Chen smiled gently. The universe knows what it's doing. Outside, the blizzard finally eased, revealing a full moon that bathed the room in silver light. Somewhere in the city, Rachel Miller prepared for a long night of vigil, hoping for news, and in a dark office, someone typed the name Thompson into a secret database, initiating a search that would change many lives. But at that moment, in that warm and safe room, 3 tiny princesses dreamed of chocolate chip cookies and fairy tales that, for the first time in a long while, felt possible. The phone rang at the 15th precinct at exactly 11:47 p.m. Detective Michael Roberts was about to end his shift, his tired eyes locked on a minor robbery report, when the electronically distorted voice filled the line. Kidnapping of minors, 3 children, Jack Thompson, mansion on the Upper East Side. Robert straightened in his worn chair, years of experience pricking his instincts. The voice was metallic, processed by sophisticated software, not an amateur job. "Could you repeat that?" he asked, signaling Officer Martinez to trace the call. "Jack Thompson picked up 3 little blonde, 4-year-old triplets at Central Park this morning. He took them to his mansion. Right now, they're there. Vulnerable." The detective turned on the recorder with a practiced, fluid motion, decades of habit. "Who's speaking?" "Someone worried about the children's safety." Another pause, loaded with meaning. "Thompson has a history. Check the accident from 5 years ago, his wife, his daughter. Nothing is what it seems." The line went dead, leaving only the dial tone hum. Martinez shook her head, no success tracing it. The call was made from a disposable number, likely a burner phone. Robert spent the next 2 hours immersed in digital files and old newspaper clippings. Jack Thompson, 45, CEO of Thompson Enterprises, estimated fortune in the billions. Widower. The accident mentioned by the anonymous tip had been headline news for weeks. A car lost on a stormy night, a wife and 3-year-old daughter who never made it home. The case was filed as an accident, but some questions were never satisfactorily answered. "Chief," Officer Jenny Martinez burst into the room, her young face flushed with excitement. "I just talked to 3 witnesses at Belle Vista Cafe. Thompson was there this morning with 3 little girls, identical. The waitress said they looked, well, her words were, like angels who spent too long in purgatory." Roberts rubbed his tired eyes. "Security footage?" "Better." Martinez waved a flash drive. "We've got cell phone pictures from a customer. Thompson cutting pancakes for the girls, buying them fancy clothes, driving them away in his Mercedes. And there's more. One of the customers is a social worker. She noticed signs of deprivation in the children, mild malnutrition, evidence of prolonged exposure to cold. Any official record of missing children matching that description?" "Not yet." "But..." Martinez hesitated, her excitement shifting to concern. "Something weird is going on. All street camera records within 5 blocks of Central Park were offline this morning. Technical failure, so they say. And when I tried accessing the missing children database, I got an access denied message. Federal level." Alarm bells rang in Roberts' mind, honed by decades of police work. Coordinated technical failures and federal blocks were rarely coincidences. "How long to get a warrant?" "Already in progress. Judge Peterson signed it 10 minutes ago." Martinez handed him the document. She cited exceptional circumstances and the family history of the suspect. "But as Chief," she looked nervous, like she knew something she couldn't say. Robert stood, grabbing his worn coat. Another snowstorm was on its way, and he'd learned to trust his instincts. Something much bigger was going on. "Assemble a team. Discreetly. We don't want to scare the children, if there are children." He paused, considering. "And Martinez, keep this off the radio. Use secure cell lines only." While the police mobilized quietly, a very different scene unfolded inside the Thompson mansion. "Another story," Emma pleaded, her eyes heavy with sleep but unwilling to close. "Please." Jack tucked her blanket around her, amazed at how these 3 little girls had turned his orderly world upside down in less than 24 hours. "It's late, Princess," he said gently. "We'll have more time for stories tomorrow." "Just one more." Olivia yawned, her tiny hands clutching a new teddy bear. "About the girl in the picture." "The one who smiles just like Emma?" Jack froze. Of course they'd noticed Laura's photo in his office. Children are attuned to details adults choose to ignore, especially painful ones. "She was your daughter?" Sophia asked softly. "The one who went to heaven with your wife?" "Yes," Jack replied, surprising even himself. It was the first time in 5 years he'd spoken about Laura. She loved stories too." "She seems nice," Emma said, drowsy. "I bet she would have liked to play with us, make braids like Mrs. Chen did." "She would," Jack whispered, feeling something warm and wet slide down his cheeks. A part of him, the part that still hurt every single day, wanted to flee. But another part, the one he thought had died on that stormy night 5 years ago, needed to speak. Outside the mansion, police cars took up strategic positions, their lights off. Roberts checked his watch. 2:13 a.m. Confirm the presence of the children before any action, he ordered over a secure channel. And somebody find out who made that anonymous call. The equipment used to distort the voice is military grade. This isn't a normal kidnapping case. At his precinct office, a computer finally completed a search in restricted databases. On screen, a file marked Confidential blinked. Project Trinity, subjects E137, O138, S139, status. Missing last known location. Chrysalis Labs responsible. Dr. Rachel Miller note, highly sensitive. Any activity must be immediately reported to Protocol Omega. Martinez, who had stayed behind to monitor searches, felt a chill at the word subjects, followed by code numbers. What kind of lab catalogued children as experiments? The snowstorm raged, covering the city in a white cloak that hid deeper and deeper secrets. At the Thompson mansion, 3 little girls slept peacefully, their tiny minds processing in dreams the extraordinary events of the day. And in a dark apartment across the city, a woman named Rachel Miller monitored hacked security cameras, her heart torn between relief at seeing her daughters finally safe and terror at what would happen when certain men in suits discovered where they were. Her phone vibrated, a message from a blocked number. They've been found. Protocol Omega initiated. Rachel closed her eyes, silent tears running down her face. The storm was only beginning, and she knew better than anyone what was at stake. "Forgive me, my little ones," she whispered to the images of the sleeping triplets. "Mommy's coming." The first ray of sunlight had barely touched the snow when sirens broke the morning silence. Jack Thompson was in his office, reviewing documents for temporary guardianship on his laptop, when Mrs. Chen burst through the door. "The police," she said simply, her normally impassive face betraying worry. "Lots of cars." Jack calmly closed the laptop. Years of tense negotiations had shaped his self-control. The girls, still asleep. "I locked the bedroom and left Margaret to keep watch." The doorbell rang, echoing through the mansion like a dark omen. "Thompson Mansion," a commanding voice sounded beyond the massive door. "NYPD, we have a warrant." Jack straightened his tie, an anxious habit he'd never shed. "Mrs. Chen, if anything happens, I'll protect those girls with my life," she finished, eyes determined. The door opened to reveal Detective Michael Roberts, flanked by tactical officers. His experienced gaze swept the entrance hall, cataloging details, children's toys neatly set in a corner, 3 small coats on the coat rack, snow boots in identical sizes. "Mr. Thompson," Roberts began, presenting the warrant, "we received a serious tip." "I imagine you did," Jack replied, voice controlled. "Please, come in, but I ask for discretion. There are children sleeping." "About that," Roberts stepped forward, accompanied by Officer Martinez. "Where are the girls?" A dull thump sounded upstairs, making everyone freeze. Then the unmistakable sound of children's laughter. "Jack," 3 voices called out in unison. "Breakfast!" Roberts watched the suspect's face transform, an involuntary smile softening his usually stern features. Not a typical reaction for a kidnapper. "May I?" Jack asked, indicating the stairs. "Martinez, go with him," Roberts ordered. "Thompson, any sudden moves—" "I'm not your enemy, Detective," Jack interrupted. "I'm probably the only protection these girls have right now." Upstairs, Emma was the first to sense something was off. Her blue eyes widened at the sight of police uniforms. "Sophia!" she shouted, stepping back. In seconds, the triplets were hugging each other, Sophia in front, her tiny body tensed like a human shield. "You're not taking us," she declared, her childlike voice brimming with surprising determination. Martinez felt her heart clench. That wasn't how kidnapped children reacted upon seeing rescuers. It was panic born of past bad experiences with authority. "No one's taking you," Jack promised, kneeling to their eye level. "But we need to talk to the police, explain a few things." "Like at the shelter?" Olivia asked, trembling. "They said they wanted to talk too." Roberts, who had come upstairs quietly, frowned. "What shelter?" "That bad place," Emma whispered, "where they did tests." A heavy silence fell on the hallway. Jack noticed Roberts and Martinez exchanging significant glances. "What kind of tests?" Roberts asked gently. "With needles," Sophia answered, "and machines that made noise, and—" She hesitated, looking at Jack for permission. "It's okay," he encouraged. "You can tell them. They wanted to see why we—" She lowered her voice to a whisper. "Why we know things before they happen." Martinez felt a chill. The confidential file she'd seen earlier, Project Trinity, was starting to make unsettling sense. "Mr. Thompson," Roberts cleared his throat, "we need to continue this conversation in private." "No!" Emma grabbed Jack's hand. "He can't go. They'll hurt him like they hurt Mom." "No one's going to hurt anyone," Roberts insisted, but something in the little girl's tone disturbed him. "What do you mean? Hurt your mom?" "The men in black suits," Olivia explained. "They came one night. Mom told us to run. She knew they were coming. Knew they. Just like we knew you," she looked at Jack. "Would help us when we saw you in the park." A phone rang, Roberts's phone. The message was brief. "Chrysalis Labs was broken into a week ago. Dr. Miller missing. 3 test subjects on the run. Classified." "Detective," Jack spoke, his voice carrying the same authority that made him one of New York's most powerful men. "I suggest we talk in my office. There's more to this story than a simple anonymous tip." "Martinez, stay with the children," Roberts instructed. In the office, Jack poured 2 glasses of whiskey. It was early, but something told him both men would need it. "5 years ago," he began, "I lost my wife and daughter in an accident. At least, that's what they told me. Sarah was a scientist. She worked in genetics. The week before the accident, she'd been on edge. She said she'd discovered something terrible at work, something about special children." Roberts felt his stomach drop. "Where did she work?" "Chrysalis Labs." The detective closed his eyes, the pieces clicking into place. "That anonymous tip wasn't really about you, was it?" "It was a warning," Jack confirmed, "or a threat. Now I have to decide. Do I tell what I know and put everyone at risk, or—" A scream cut through the air, followed by a thud. Both men rushed into the hallway. Martinez was on the floor, unconscious. The bedroom window stood open, curtains dancing in the cold wind. On the bed, a note read, "Sorry, Jack. We needed to protect you too, S, E, and O." The triplets were gone. The 15th precinct was buzzing with activity as Jack Thompson was led to interrogation room 3. His hands still trembled slightly, not from fear, but from anger at himself for failing to protect the girls. The door opened, and time seemed to freeze. "Sarah?" The word escaped his lips before he could stop it. The woman who entered wasn't Sarah. His wife had been dead for 5 years, but the resemblance was startling. The same blue eyes, the same elegant posture, the same blend of determination and exhaustion. "Jack Thompson," she said, her voice quivering slightly. "How you haven't changed." "Rachel," long-buried memories surfaced like bubbles in murky water. "Rachel Miller." Detective Roberts, watching through the one-way mirror, noticed how both kept their distance, like magnets of the same polarity. "You know Dr. Miller?" he asked over the intercom. "She worked with my wife," Jack replied, not taking his eyes off Rachel. "On the project that—" He hesitated. "On the project that killed Sarah," Rachel finished, taking a seat. "The same project now threatening my daughters." Jack felt the air drain from his lungs. "The triplets, they're—" "Mine, yes." Rachel ran a hand through her hair in a gesture so familiar it hurt. "And in a way, they're also part of Sarah." The room seemed to shrink, the grey walls pressing in on their shared memories. "The last time I saw you," Jack began, "was at the funeral. I tried to tell you that day," Rachel said, "about what really happened, about what Sarah discovered, but you were—" "Drunk," he admitted bitterly. "And devastated. And under watch," she added. "Chrysalis agents never left you alone back then." Roberts entered, carrying a thick file. "Maybe we should start from the beginning, Dr. Miller." Rachel looked at Jack, a decision forming in her eyes. "Sarah discovered something at the lab, something they'd do anything to keep secret." "Project Trinity," Roberts suggested. "No," Rachel shook her head. "Trinity came later. What Sarah found was Project Genesis, genetic manipulation at a quantum level. They were trying to create special abilities. Jack's stomach churned, like seeing the future. Among other things, Rachel confirmed. Sarah was horrified. They used children's genetic material without parental consent. When she threatened to blow the whistle, the accident, Jack finished, his voice hoarse, which wasn't an accident at all, Rachel said softly. Sarah left me evidence, samples, data, everything that proved what they were doing. I used it. To create the triplets, Jack realized, the pieces falling into place. Not exactly. Rachel stood, pacing the room. Emma, Olivia, and Sophia are my biological daughters, but I used Sarah's discoveries. I enhanced their genes during pregnancy. It was the only way to prove what Chrysalis was doing. Turning your own children into experiments, Jack's voice was thick with horror. Turning them into living proof. Rachel slammed the table. Proof they couldn't hide or kill, like they did with Sarah. 3 identical girls, not just in appearance, but with abilities that defy known science. Abilities that could only have come from Project Genesis. Premonitions, Roberts interjected. They really can't see fragments of the future, yes. Rachel gave a sad smile. Emma sees moments of joy. Olivia sees moments of danger. And Sophia sees choices, possible paths. Jack thought of the park, how the girls seemed to be waiting for him, how Sophia had decided to trust him. Why now? He asked. Why expose them after so long in hiding? Because they found me, Rachel replied, tears finally falling. Chrysalis, I had to send the girls away, praying they'd find you. Find me? Jack frowned. How? Sarah left you a letter, Rachel said, pulling a worn envelope from her pocket. To be delivered if something happened to her. I never could. I never found the right moment. With trembling hands, Jack opened the envelope. Sarah's handwriting, so familiar it hurt, covered the page. My love, if you're reading this, something went wrong. But knowing Rachel, she found a way to carry on our fight. Protect what she created, Jack. Protect the children. They're our legacy, not just of science, but of the humanity we tried to preserve. And Jack, Laura would have loved being their big sister. With eternal love, Sarah. A heavy silence filled the room, broken only by the distant sound of sirens. The girls ran away to protect you, Rachel said softly, because Olivia saw danger coming. But now they're alone, Jack stood, and Chrysalis is hunting them. Roberts grabbed his phone. I'll mobilize all units. No, Rachel and Jack said together. They're not lost, Rachel explained. They're exactly where they need to be, where Sarah planned for them to be. The lake house, Jack whispered, an old memory surfacing. Sarah always said it was our safe place. And now, Rachel smiled, it's their safe place, but we have to move fast. Chrysalis has eyes everywhere. As if to confirm her words, the lights in the station flickered and went out. In the sudden darkness, a phone rang. Protocol Omega initiated, a metallic voice announced. Assets in motion. Eliminate all witnesses. The hunt was on. Rachel Miller watched the rain outside the station window, her hands wrapped around a cup of coffee gone cold. Night had turned into early morning, and the memories she'd struggled to bury rose like impatient ghosts. Start from the beginning, Detective Roberts asked gently, his recorder's red light blinking atop the table. How did it all begin? Jack Thompson, sitting in the corner of the room, noticed how Rachel squared her shoulders, the same gesture Sarah used when bracing for a tough battle. I was 22 when Chrysalis recruited me, she began, her voice distant. Fresh out of grad school in molecular genetics, full of dreams about changing the world. They offered unlimited resources, cutting-edge technology, the chance to make revolutionary discoveries. She paused, a bitter smile crossing her lips. Sarah was already there, brilliant, determined, ethical to the core. She became my mentor, then my best friend. She was the first to sense something was off. Off how? Roberts asked, taking notes. Children disappearing from orphanages, medical records altered, DNA samples arriving without documentation. Rachel sipped the cold coffee, shivering. At first, they explained everything away with bureaucracy, paperwork that would come later, authorizations in progress. Sarah didn't buy it. Jack shifted uneasily in his chair. Why didn't she ever tell me? To protect you, Rachel said gently. The less you knew, the safer you were. But she left clues, prepared contingencies. Sarah was always 3 steps ahead of everyone. Roberts checked his notes. When exactly did you discover Project Genesis? It was a week before Sarah's accident. Rachel made air quotes with her fingers. She called me to the lab late at night. She'd just deciphered Chrysalis's true goals. The rain outside intensified, as if nature itself wanted to provide a dramatic soundtrack to her story. They weren't just studying special DNA, they were creating it, manipulating genes at a quantum level to produce abilities current science deems impossible. Precognition, telepathy, accelerated healing. Rachel trembled, and they were using children as test subjects. Why children? Jack asked, though he dreaded the answer. Neural plasticity, Rachel explained. Young brains adapt better to changes, and children, she hesitated, children are easier to control, to condition. A distant siren wailed, making everyone tense for a moment. Sarah collected evidence, Rachel continued. Samples, data, videos. She planned to go public, but someone found out. The men in black suits, Jack recalled the triplets' words. Rachel nodded. Chrysalis Security Division, ex-military experts in resolving problems. The night of the accident, Sarah gave me a flash drive, made me swear to continue her fight. The genetic material you used on the triplets, Roberts deduced. Not exactly. Rachel paced. The flash drive contained something far more valuable, the complete genetic modification map of Project Genesis. And, she looked at Jack, a sample of Laura's DNA. Jack felt the air whoosh out of him. What? Sarah discovered Laura was naturally special. Her DNA had a unique configuration. She would have developed abilities even without manipulation. That's why Chrysalis was so interested in your family. So that night, Jack began, his voice shaky. It wasn't about Sarah's discoveries, Rachel explained softly. It was about Laura. They wanted your daughter, Jack. Sarah died protecting her. A heavy silence filled the room. Robert switched off the recorder, feeling this moment was too personal for official records. When I found out I was pregnant, Rachel continued after a moment, I realized it was my chance. Using the genetic map from the project and, she hesitated, and Laura's DNA markers, I altered my own eggs before fertilization. You created 3 versions of Laura, Jack asked, horrified. No, Rachel exclaimed. I created 3 unique little girls, my daughters, but with the same special potential Laura had naturally. It was the only way to prove what Chrysalis was up to, children with documented abilities from birth, without their interference. But they found out, Roberts pointed out, eventually. It took 4 years, but someone noticed the pattern, how the girls had premonitions, their unique bond. Rachel smiled sadly. They're too perfect, you know? Not as experiments, but as children. Emma with her contagious joy, Olivia with her boundless curiosity, Sophia with her protective strength. So why send them to the park? Jack asked. Why take that risk? Rachel pulled a creased photo from her pocket. 3 newborns, identical and perfect. Because Sophia saw you, Jack. Weeks ago she drew your house and described your face, the sad man, she called you, who will be our guardian angel. Jack felt hot tears on his cheeks. Sarah knew, all this time, she knew this would happen. She left a plan, Rachel confirmed. The lake house is just the beginning. There's more, much more. Enough evidence to bring Chrysalis down to save other children, but first we have to find the girls, Jack finished, standing. Before they do, Roberts grabbed his coat. I'll provide police backup. No, Rachel and Jack said in unison. The girls will see the police coming, Rachel explained. Olivia will sense danger. They'll run again. Then how, Roberts began, but was cut off by his ringing phone. The message was succinct. Movement detected at Thompson's lake house. 3 small targets. Omega team en route to intercept. Time was running out. Jack, Rachel touched his arm, her blue eyes so much like Sarah's, shining with unshed tears. There's something else you need to know. About that night, about Laura. But before she could finish, the station lights flickered off, plunging everyone into darkness. The hunt had begun. Detective Roberts' office felt smaller under the glow of emergency lanterns. Rachel Miller sat stiffly in her chair, her fingers tracing invisible patterns on the Chrysalis Labs file Roberts had placed on the table. "They erased almost everything," Roberts said, flipping through pages filled with redacted sections. "But we found this." He slid over an old photo. It showed a younger Rachel smiling beside a tall man in glasses. The date in the corner read 03-15 to 2018. "Dr. Marcus Chen," Rachel said, her voice trembling slightly. "My ex-husband. And one of the reasons Chrysalis kept me for so long." Jackie Hiss, watching from the corner, noticed how she unconsciously touched an old scar on her wrist. "He was brilliant," Rachel continued, her eyes unfocused. "A genius in bioengineering. He developed the original Project Genesis algorithm. And he was also the one who," she hesitated, "who showed me that sometimes monsters wear white coats." Roberts picked up another document. "Hospital records show 7 admissions in 18 months. Lab accidents," Rachel laughed without humor. "That's what I told the doctors. What everyone at Chrysalis pretended to believe. Marcus was too valuable to be questioned." "Why didn't you leave?" Jack asked softly. "Because he knew my secret." Rachel pulled another paper from her bag, an old pregnancy test. "I was pregnant, and he had plans for our baby." The silence that followed was crushing. "Marcus wanted to use our child as the first test subject for an enhanced Project Genesis, a perfect guinea pig, genetically compatible, available from conception." Rachel swallowed hard. "That's when Sarah entered my life. She saw the signs, offered help, showed me I wasn't alone. Records say Dr. Chen died in a car accident." Roberts checked his notes. 3 months before the triplets were born." "Accident," Rachel repeated the word like venom. "Just like Sarah's, just like so many others who asked too many questions." Jack stepped forward, a suspicion growing in his mind. "Rachel, what really happened that night?" She closed her eyes, tears escaping silently. "Marcus discovered what I'd done, genetically modifying my eggs. The plan to expose the project. He was furious. Said I'd ruined years of research, that the kids would be freaks." Her voice faltered for a moment before she continued. He tried to force me to abort. Said we'd start over his way. That's when," she looked straight at Jack, "Sarah showed up. She'd come to deliver more documents, more proof she'd gathered. A fight broke out. Marcus fell or was pushed. I never knew for sure." "Sarah killed your husband?" Roberts asked, incredulous. "Sarah saved 3 lives that night," Rachel corrected. "And in the years that followed, she kept protecting me. She set up a support network, prepared escape routes, stored evidence in safe places. She knew Chrysalis would come after us one day. That's why the girls have those specific abilities," Jack realized. "It wasn't a coincidence." Rachel nodded. "Emma sees joy because we needed hope. Olivia sees danger to keep us alive. And Sophia," she smiled sadly, "Sophia sees choices because Sarah believed there's always a way, even in the most impossible situations." Roberts checked his phone, which had just vibrated. "Omega team is 10 minutes from the lake house." "There's more," Rachel said urgently. "So much more. Chrysalis isn't just creating special children, they're making weapons." Project Genesis was just the start. Now they have Project Phoenix. "What's Project Phoenix?" Jack asked her, though he feared the answer. "Genetic resurrection," Rachel whispered. "They found a way to reactivate dormant DNA, to bring back traits lost eons ago." She looked meaningfully at Jack. "Traits like the ones Laura had." Jack felt the room spin. "You're saying—" "Laura never died in that accident, Jack," Rachel said, tears now flowing freely. "Chrysalis has her, and Sarah. Sarah's spent the last 5 years trying to reach her." Thunder shook the building, causing the emergency lights to flicker. "The triplets are the key," Rachel continued, speaking quickly. "They're modified genes, combined with Laura's natural DNA. That's why they're desperate to get them. With them, they can perfect Project Phoenix. Without them—" "Laura stays in stasis," Jack completed. his voice thick with emotion. "Between life and death. That's why we have to reach the lake house first," Rachel stood. "It's not just a hideout. It's where Sarah stored everything, all the proof, all the data, the whole truth. And more importantly," she hesitated, "it's where she left a map to the real Project Phoenix lab." Roberts readied his gun. "I'll call for backup." "No," Rachel and Jack said again. "Chrysalis has people everywhere," Rachel explained. "Police, FBI, CIA, no one is trustworthy." "Then how do we—" Roberts started, but was interrupted by a piercing noise from his computer. On the screen, a live feed showed 3 small figures entering the lake house, rapidly approaching, visible only as red dots on a thermal scanner. Were multiple tactical teams converging on the location. "We have to go." Jack was already at the door. "Now." Rachel grabbed her bag, then paused. "Jack, there's something else you need to know. About Sarah." Another thunderclap rattled the building, and this time the lights went out completely. In the dark, Roberts' phone cast a faint glow, revealing one last message. "Project Phoenix activated. Subject L001 in process of awakening. All units on high alert." The storm was only getting started. The Federal Court of New York exuded a sense of centuries-old power in its paneled oak walls and polished marble floors. Judge Elena Martinez looked over the crowded courtroom above her reading glasses, her expression inscrutable as the bailiff announced, "Case number 2025 CR 789, the People versus Jack Thompson and Rachel Miller." At the defense table, Jack adjusted his navy blue tie, the same one he'd worn the day he found the triplets. Beside him, Rachel looked smaller in her gray blazer, but her eyes burned with fierce determination. Behind them, Detective Roberts and Agent Walsh occupied the first row of seats. "Prosecutor Jensen, you may present the charges," Judge Martinez instructed. Catherine Jensen, a woman in her early 40s with a pristine pantsuit, rose gracefully. "Your Honor, the state charges the defendants with qualified kidnapping of minors, obstruction of justice, and interference in an ongoing federal investigation." "Objection, Your Honor," Sarah Mackenzie, the defense attorney, interjected. "The federal investigation the prosecution refers to is classified at a national security level. My clients cannot properly defend themselves without access to those documents." "Overruled," Martinez replied. "National security issues will be addressed in a private hearing." In the gallery, a man in a dark suit took discreet notes on a tablet. The Chrysalis Labs logo gleamed subtly on his lapel. "The prosecution calls its first witness," Jensen announced. "Dr. William Hayes, director of Chrysalis Labs." A tall man with gray hair and thin-rimmed glasses took the witness stand. After being sworn in, Jensen began, "Dr. Hayes, please explain to the court the nature of Chrysalis Labs' work." "We're a biomedical research institution," Hayes replied in a soft, articulate tone. "Our primary focus is developing genetic treatments for rare pediatric diseases." "And what was Dr. Miller's role at your institution?" "Rachel was a promising researcher," Hayes said with a theatrical sigh. "But after her husband's death, she began exhibiting erratic behavior, conspiracy theories, accusations of unethical practices among colleagues." Rachel clenched her fists under the table. Jack covered her hand with his, feeling it tremble. "Dr. Hayes," Jensen continued, "were you aware of the genetic modifications Dr. Miller performed on her own daughters?" "Objection," Mackenzie rose. "This question assumes unproven facts." "Your Honor," Jensen countered, "we have medical reports confirming significant genetic anomalies in the triplets." "Allowed," Martinez decided. "The witness may answer." Hayes adjusted his glasses. "We discovered, or through routine exams, that the children showed significant genetic alterations. When confronted, Rachel fled with them, denying them essential medical care." In the gallery, Roberts noticed how the man from Chrysalis typed furiously on his tablet. "What about Mr. Thompson's involvement?" Jensen asked. "Ah, yes," Hayes gave a sad smile. "Jack Thompson, a particularly tragic case. After losing his wife and daughter, he developed an obsession with special children. We believe he suffers from unresolved trauma." Jack stood abruptly. but Mackenzie pulled him back down. "Your turn will come," she whispered. Jensen pressed on. "Dr. Hayes, can you explain why Chrysalis is so interested in these specific children?" "Objection," Mackenzie interjected again. "The prosecution is leading the witness." "Your Honor," Jensen argued, "Chrysalis Lab's interest is central to this case." Martinez considered for a moment. Aloud, "But be careful with how you lead, prosecutor." Hayes cleared his throat. "The triplets possess unique genetic mutations that could be dangerous without proper monitoring. Our only concern is their medical well-being." Mackenzie stood for cross-examination. "Dr. Hayes, could you tell the court why all records of Project Genesis were wiped from Chrysalis servers on the night of Dr. Sarah Thompson's supposed accident?" Hayes's smile wavered. "I'm not aware of any Project Genesis." "No," Mackenzie projected a document onto the courtroom screen. "This email, sent by you in 2020, specifically mentions significant breakthroughs on Project G. G as in Genesis, correct?" "Objection," Jensen rose. "This document was not included in discovery because it was properly classified." A new voice echoed from the courtroom entrance. Everyone turned. An older woman with graying hair and a military posture strode down the central aisle, followed by two agents in suits. "Director Catherine Blake, NSA," she introduced herself to the judge. "Your Honor, I request an immediate private hearing. This case has national security implications beyond appearances." Martinez frowned. "Prosecutor Jensen, the state does not object, Your Honor." "Defense?" Martinez looked at Mackenzie. "Only if my clients are present." Blake nodded. "They're central to this discussion." As the courtroom was cleared, Jack noticed something odd. Hayes seemed genuinely surprised by Blake's arrival, and the man from Chrysalis had vanished, leaving his tablet on the seat. On its abandoned screen, a message flashed. "Containment protocol activated. Project Phoenix at risk. Initiate ghost procedure." Rachel squeezed Jack's hand. On her wrist, a small device, apparently a monitoring bracelet, glowed faintly blue. "It's starting," she whispered. "What?" Jack asked. "What Sarah predicted." The moment when truth and lies collide. The doors to the private room closed with a heavy thud, and Blake began to speak. "Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm about to reveal will change everything you believe about human evolution, national security, and—" she looked directly at Jack, "the true purpose of Project Phoenix." At the lake house, three little girls observed this same scene through an improvised monitor in the underground bunker. Next to them, a woman everyone believed dead typed commands into a terminal. "Mom," Laura whispered, "are they ready?" Sarah Thompson smiled at her daughter. "Yes, my dear. It's time to wake the world up." The real battle was just beginning. The private hearing room felt even smaller with only 10 people inside. Director Blake remained standing, her military bearing a stark contrast to the traditional judicial setting. In her hands, a red folder bore the words "Top Secret" in gold letters. "What I'm about to share," she began, "is classified at the highest level of national security. Until now, only 7 people worldwide knew the whole truth about Rachel Miller's case." Jack saw Rachel straighten her shoulders, her gaze locked on Blake, a mixture of fear and relief shining in her eyes. "In 2018, Blake continued, projecting images on a screen, "the NSA initiated Project Guardian, a top-secret witness protection program. Not for criminals or typical informants, but for scientists whose discoveries posed both a promise and a threat to humanity." The first image showed Rachel, younger, alongside Sarah Thompson, both in Chrysalis lab coats. Dr. Miller and Dr. Thompson weren't just colleagues. They were leading researchers in a field the public doesn't even know exists: quantum genetic engineering. Hayes shifted uncomfortably in his chair. In 2019, they discovered something extraordinary in a child's DNA. Laura Thompson. Blake displayed a new image, the same genetic sequence Rachel had shown before. A natural mutation that could revolutionize medicine or create a devastating bioweapon. Jack's heart pounded. At the defense table, Rachel held something in her hands, a small golden key he hadn't noticed before. Rachel's husband, Dr. Marcus Chen's was actually a double agent, Blake revealed. He worked for an international group we call the Consortium, interested in biological weaponry. When he learned Rachel was pregnant, he saw a unique opportunity to create his own test subjects. Rachel stood slowly. "May I show something, Director?" Blake nodded. With trembling hands, Rachel inserted the little key into a nearly invisible slot on her monitoring bracelet. The device opened, revealing a microchip. "For the past 6 years," she said, her voice firmer than it had ever been, "every move, every decision, every apparent moment of abandonment, it was all recorded, documented, preserved as evidence." "Objection!" Hayes rose. "This violates Chrysalis protocols." "Sit down, Dr. Hayes," Blake ordered. "Or should I call you by your real name, Agent Chen?" A stunned silence followed. Hayes, Chen, visibly paled. "Marcus Chen never died in that accident," Blake explained. "He underwent extensive plastic surgery and assumed the identity of William Hayes, infiltrating Chrysalis's leadership, all to continue his obsession with Project Genesis." Rachel plugged the microchip into a terminal. On screen, dozens of videos played. Marcus Hayes in secret meetings, destroying documents, whispering about eliminating variables. "Abandoning the triplets," Rachel said, tears falling silently, "was the final step of the plan. We needed them to reach Jack. We needed Chrysalis to show its true face by trying to retrieve them." "Why?" Judge Martinez finally spoke. "Because Jack Thompson isn't just Sarah's widower," Blake answered. "He's the only member of the Chrysalis board who hasn't been compromised by the Consortium." Jack felt his world tilt. "What? You never wondered why you had so much classified access, Jack?" Rachel asked gently. "Why your credentials were never revoked, even after Sarah's accident? She put you on the board years ago, preparing the stage." "Sarah is alive," Blake confirmed what Rachel had already revealed, "and so is Laura. But what no one knew, except us, is that they never left Chrysalis. Sarah became our deepest cover agent, working to expose the Consortium from within. A new video began playing on the screen. An older but unmistakable Sarah Thompson appeared, recording in some secret lab. If you're watching this, Jack, it means the plan worked. The triplets reached you, Rachel did her part. Now it's time for the truth. Chrysalis isn't just a lab. It's a front for something much bigger. Project Phoenix isn't about awakening ancestral genes. It's about creating a new human species. And our children, they're just the beginning." Hayes, Chen jumped up, his hand reaching inside his jacket. But before he could do anything, agents materialized seemingly out of nowhere, pinning him down. "Marcus Chen," Blake proclaimed formally, "you're under arrest for treason, attempted murder, illegal human experimentation, and international conspiracy." Rachel stepped closer, years of fear giving way to strength. "You never understood, did you? Why I chose to have triplets when I could have selected a single perfect embryo for your experiments," Chen snarled. "Why? Because 3 are stronger than 1, because together they can protect each other, like Sarah and I protected one another, like we protected our children." An alarm blared on Blake's tablet. On screen, a live feed from the lake house showed the triplets in the underground bunker, Sarah typing commands, and Laura, now about 8 years old, connecting some device to a massive server. "It's done," Blake announced. "The Consortium's central server has just been hacked. All evidence, all secret files, the entire Project Phoenix, it's being broadcast to intelligence agencies around the globe." "No!" Chen shouted. "You don't understand. The world isn't ready." "The world is never ready for the truth," Rachel replied. "But our children are. The new generation you wanted to create in a lab. They already exist, not as weapons, not as experiments, but as human beings. With choice, with free will." Jack stood, finally understanding. "That's why the triplets have those specific abilities. Emma sees joy because we need hope. Olivia sees danger because we need protection. And Sophia sees choices," Rachel finished, "because the future is never fixed. There's always a path, even in the most impossible scenarios." Judge Martinez banged the gavel. "This court orders the immediate transfer of custody of the triplets into federal protection. under the joint supervision of Rachel Miller and Jack Thompson, Dr. Hayes. Chen will remain in custody for extensive interrogation. As Chen was led away, still protesting, Blake approached Jack and Rachel. "There's a helicopter waiting. It's time for you to get your family." On the monitor, Sarah smiled directly into the camera, Laura waving by her side. And in the background, 3 identical little figures jumped and cheered. They knew, Jack realized. All along they knew this would happen. "Of course they did," Rachel smiled, picking up her bag. "They're our daughters." As they left the courthouse, the rain finally gave way to sunlight. Somewhere upstate, a shattered family prepared for a reunion. And in Chrysalis's central server, a new file was being created. Project Aurora, Phase 1 complete. Beginning of the post-human era, approved. The truth had come out. But as Sophia always said, every revelation was just the start of a new path. And that path, it was only beginning. The late afternoon sun cast a golden glow in Judge Martinez's chambers as she signed the final decree. Jack Thompson and Rachel Miller stood side by side, their shadows merging on the polished marble floor. "Considering the evidence presented and the extraordinary circumstances of this case," Martinez began, her voice carrying formal legal weight, "this court grants joint custody of Emma, Olivia, and Sophia Miller Thompson to the petitioners." Rachel exhaled a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Next to her, Jack discreetly wiped away a tear. "Furthermore," the judge continued, "I order the immediate implementation of the Special Protection Program as requested by the NSA, under the supervision of Director Blake." In the front row, Blake nodded, satisfied. The plan she and Sarah had devised years ago was finally bearing fruit. "Mrs. Chen," the attorney approached with a folder, "these are the new identification documents for the girls. As of now, they are officially Emma, Olivia, and Sophia Miller Thompson." Rachel traced the new hyphenated names with trembling fingers. It was more than a legal change. It was the realization of a new family, formed not by blood, but by mutual protection. "The mansion is ready," Jack said gently. "Mrs. Chen redecorated 3 rooms upstairs, though," he smiled, "I suspect they'll still prefer to sleep together." "Old habits," Rachel grinned back, "especially when Olivia has her nighttime premonitions." The judge's intercom buzzed. "Your Honor, they're here." The doors opened, and 3 tiny whirlwinds of energy burst in. Emma led the charge, her smile as radiant as the sun. Olivia followed, her eyes scanning the room for unseen threats. Sophia, always the protector, brought up the rear, but something about them was different now. A lightness, a sense of security Rachel had never seen before. "Mom," Emma hurled herself into Rachel's arms, "we saw everything on the bunker screen. It was amazing." "You weren't scared at all," Olivia declared proudly, "not even when the bad man tried to draw his gun." Because she knew it would work out, Sophia concluded with her trademark wisdom, all the paths pointed that way. Sarah Thompson entered next, as with Laura at her side. Jack froze, 5 years of grief and longing condensed into a single moment. "Hi, love," Sarah said simply. Laura let go of her mother's hand and ran to Jack. "Dad." The hug that followed was 5 years overdue, but no less powerful for the delay. Jack lifted his daughter in his arms, memorizing her new weight, her new height, the scent of her hair that was exactly as he remembered. "Now we're a big family," Emma announced, tugging Laura's hand as soon as Jack set her down. "You'll love the room we picked for you. It's next to ours. And it has a secret passage," Olivia whispered dramatically. "Mrs. Chen doesn't know, but we found it." "Actually," Mrs. Chen appeared at the door with a tray of cookies, "I do know. Who do you think put the extra blankets in there?" The children laughed, their giggles washing away years of fear and tension. Blake stepped forward. "The Thompson mansion is officially under federal protection. Security perimeter established, 24-hour surveillance team, emergency protocols active." "And Chrysalis?" Rachel asked. "Being dismantled as we speak. Chen and his associates are in custody. All Project Phoenix data is secured, distributed among allied agencies. No one will have enough power to rebuild it." Sarah pulled a folder from her bag. "But the most important thing isn't the data, it's the discoveries." What we learned about human potential, about directed evolution, can help thousands of children with genetic diseases. Under proper supervision this time, Blake added. Jack watched the children interact, the triplets showing little tricks to Laura, who countered with her own special talents. They weren't lab experiments or biological weapons. They were just extraordinary children growing up in a world that would have to adapt to them. "Shall we go home?" he asked, offering one hand to Sarah and the other to Rachel. "Home," Rachel repeated, letting the words settle, full of promise. "Yes, let's go home." As the group left the courthouse, the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. In the back of the armored SUV, 4 girls soon fell asleep, exhausted after the intense day. "They're the future," Sarah said quietly, watching them in the rearview mirror. Not how Chrysalis planned it, but how it should be. Natural, chosen, free, and protected, Jack added, his hand finding hers by the gear shift. Rachel smiled from the back seat, keeping watch over the children as they slept. Years of running, of fear, of impossible choices, all worth it for this moment. In her sleep, Emma smiled, likely seeing some wonderful future. Olivia snuggled closer, her dreams free of danger for the first time she could remember. Sophia, even asleep, kept one arm protectively over her sisters and her new older sister. And Laura? Laura simply slept, secure in the knowledge that she was finally home. Back at the Thompson mansion, Mrs. Chen oversaw the final preparations. 4 bedrooms lovingly decorated, a kitchen full of favorite treats, a state-of-the-art security system discreetly woven into the old architecture. Their new life was only beginning. There would be challenges, of course. Nightmares to soothe, powers to master, a world to educate about differences and acceptance. But as Sophia always said, seeing multiple futures unfold, the best path is the one we choose together. And this family, they had chosen to stand united against all odds. It was just the beginning. 1 year later, the summer sun cast a golden light across the Thompson mansion's gardens, where 4 girls played under Mrs. Chen's watchful eye. The once quiet estate, like a mausoleum of lost memories, now pulsed with life and laughter. "Hiya, Laura," Emma called from the swing, her blonde hair glinting like spun gold. "You promised to teach me how to fly." Laura, now 9, gave her younger sister a careful push. Her eyes, so much like Sarah's, sparkled with a wisdom beyond her years. "Flying is easy, Emem. The hard part is knowing where to land." At the newly renovated gazebo, the same one where Jack had found the triplets on that freezing morning a year ago, 3 adults watched with serene smiles. Jack Thompson, still impeccable in his Italian suit, but with laugh lines replacing his worry lines. Sarah, her hand clasped in his, making up for 5 years of absence. And Rachel, meticulously arranging final details for the triplets' birthday party, her face aglow with a long-forgotten peace. 5 years, Rachel murmured, adjusting a flower arrangement. "It feels like a lifetime since we were running." "And at the same time," Sarah added, "it feels like this has always been our life." As though the universe was just waiting for everyone to find their place, Olivia suddenly paused their game of tag, her eyes focusing on something beyond the visible horizon. In seconds, Sophia was at her side, a protective hand on her sister's shoulder. The bond among the triplets, far from lessening in their newfound safety, had only strengthened. "What do you see, Liv?" Sophia asked with her trademark gentleness. "Nothing bad," Olivia smiled, her shoulders relaxing. "Just lots of guests arriving. And presents?" Her eyes sparkled. "Lots of presents." As if responding to her words, the old doorbell echoed through the estate. Mrs. Chen, ever efficient, returned with a familiar group. Detective Roberts and Agent Walsh, arms loaded with colorful boxes. Director Blake, her military demeanor softened by a genuine smile, and a discreet security team taking up strategic positions around the perimeter. "Presents!" Emma squealed with infectious joy, racing toward the newcomers. Her sisters followed, a whirlwind of energy and excitement. After the cake, Rachel, Sarah, and Mrs. Chen chorused in unison, drawing laughter from everyone. Roberts approached Jack, handing him an official envelope bearing the government seal. "These are the final files on the Chrysalis case. Chen got life in prison with no parole." The consortium was fully dismantled. "And the research data?" Sarah asked, her scientific curiosity ever present. "Secure," Blake replied, joining the group. "The new Ethical Genetic Research Division is running under international supervision, this time using knowledge to help, not to control." Jack watched Laura help the triplets methodically organize their gifts. His heart warmed at how the four had grown truly inseparable, sisters not by blood or chance, but by deep choice and unconditional love. "Dad," Emma called, her eyes shining with that special light she always had before something wonderful happened. "Tell us our story, please." "Again!" He feigned exasperation, already moving to join the girls on the soft lawn. "It's tradition," Sophia declared with her adorable seriousness, "and traditions matter." "It was a very cold morning," Jack began, the girls gathering around him like planets orbiting their sun. "Snow fell like frozen stars." Rachel watched, tears of happiness blurring her vision. Sarah entwined their fingers, both sharing a silent moment of gratitude. Their friendship, forged in labs and tempered by tragedy, had grown into something deeper, a sisterhood of warriors who had fought and won. In the spacious kitchen, Mrs. Chen added finishing touches to the birthday cake, an edible work of art depicting the story in sugar and color. 3 delicate butterflies swirled around a larger one, all flying toward a golden sun. In silver frosting beneath them, the words, "Love builds stronger wings than fear." That first year was the hardest, she told Walsh, who was helping with final preparations. The girls had nightmares, jumped at shadows, feared every moment of happiness would be snatched away. "And now?" Walsh asked, though the answer was obvious in the laughter echoing through the garden. "Now they're just kids," Mrs. Chen smiled. "Extraordinary kids, yes, but free to be what they are, children." The sun had begun its descent on the horizon by the time everyone gathered for cake. The 4 girls held hands, closing their eyes to make wishes. Sunset's golden light bathed them, creating a nearly magical scene. "No need to wish for anything," Olivia murmured to her sisters. "I don't see any danger in the future." "Still," Sophia smiled, her gaze spanning countless bright possibilities, "it's good to have hope." "Every future is good now," Emma declared with luminous certainty. Laura hugged all 3 of them. "Because we're finally complete." Later that night, when stars dotted the summer sky and the children had finally collapsed into sleep, all in the same room as they preferred, the adults gathered in the library. Jack poured glasses of champagne, raising a toast. "To family," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Not the one fate hands us, but the one we choose to build. To truth," Roberts added, "which always finds its way into the light. To justice," Walsh chimed in, "which may take time, but never fails. To hope," Sarah and Rachel said in unison, "which kept us alive through the darkest nights." Blake raised her glass. "And to the children, not as experiments or weapons, but as the future they choose to be." Upstairs, 4 little girls slept peacefully. Emma smiled in her dreams, most likely seeing more joyful moments ahead. Olivia, for the first time in her life, sensed no lurking danger. Sophia rested from her ceaseless vigilance, knowing all paths now led to light. And Laura? Laura dreamed of golden butterflies, flying free under a sky full of endless possibilities. On the library table, among photos of the party and plates of cake crumbs, one of Sophia's drawings stood out. 7 adults and 4 children, all holding hands in a perfect circle. Above the picture, in careful childlike handwriting, were the words, "Family is who chooses to stay. When the world chooses to leave, love is who decides to protect even when it hurts to live. The future is what we build together, with hope and with truth and strength. Strength is knowing we'll never again be alone in the storm. Mrs. Chen, passing by to collect the last glasses, smiled at the drawing. In all her years serving the Thompson family, she had witnessed tragedy and loss, pain and loneliness. But now, at last, These old walls echoed with the most precious sound of all, the sound of a complete family, united not by blood but by brave choices and unconditional love. In the garden, the fondant butterflies from the birthday cake were placed on a small makeshift altar, a sweet reminder that sometimes you have to weather storms to learn how to fly. Next to them, a recent photo, 4 smiling girls, 3 protective adults, and a support team that had become extended family. The future lay before them like a book with blank pages, ready to be filled with new adventures. There would be challenges, of course, learning to control gifts, navigating a world that doesn't always embrace the extraordinary. But as Sophia liked to say, her wise eyes seeing the countless paths unfold, the best path is the one we choose together. And us? We choose love. Always. Because in the end, it's love that makes us extraordinary. And so beneath a star-filled summer sky, the Thompson mansion held not just a rebuilt family, but a renewed promise. That love, when true and courageous, can heal any wound, overcome any obstacle, and bridge the deepest chasms. It was only the beginning.